Hello. So we are live, and tonight's the first night of Fantaspoa Film Festival. It's the first time in 16 years that we are doing something different. And due to the pandemic, we are doing a full online film festival. In total, we have about over 100 films playing for 10 days. And Pornô is our opening night film that will be playing from here until Sunday, and it's a film that I like it a lot. And I'll let the guys present themselves before I start asking some questions.
Before you add a lot, I'm just gonna say it's a film that I like, and then just leave it alone. My name is Keola, and I'm the director of the film.
My name is Laurence. I'm one of the two writers of this movie.
I'm Matt. I'm the other writer.
I was going direction of the boxes, but okay.
Yeah, me too. Counterclockwise on my side.
I'm Chris. I'm one of the producers, and where better to premiere porno than the internet?
So, starting, what were your inspirations to create this project? Because it's quite a unique film, and for the people that still haven't watched it, because the film went online today morning in Brazil, about 21 hours ago to be precise, to create a feature film that tells its story inside a film theater from 27 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of kind of like germs for this film, a lot of like seeds from which it grew. I think the very first seed was an article that Laurence came across about a psychological experiment that was done in a porno movie theater where they had someone dressed like a ghoul, and they would during the porno film they would have the ghoul like run around the theater to see who noticed. It was to gauge like perception or something like that, and nobody noticed the ghoul. Very few people noticed. They were very focused on the porno film. So I think Laurence read that article, and then I think he and Matt came up with the initial idea for the film, right?
Yeah, we wanted to do like a Stand By Me story in one of the last porno theaters in Times Square, as Giuliani was closing them all down. Was our sort of original germ of an idea, I would say. Germ being the operative word.
Mm-hmm. But there wasn't really much more to the story than that at that point. It was just like the log line was just haunted porno theater, if I recall correctly. So we built it up a lot more.
Untitled Haunted Porno Theater Project was, I think, what we presented to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
So at that time, the theater still existed, and it still exists now, or not?
The one was actually shot in?
Yeah.
So the theater that the film itself is shot in exists still. I mean, you know, who knows? All theaters are closed down right now, so who knows what happens when they open back up. But yeah, that theater exists still.
Not
but it wasn't.
Theater, though.
But not as a porno theater. It's just a regular theater. But in the time period that Laurence is talking about, it was the Giuliani period was in the 90s, and Times Square right now in New York is a very kind of like touristy place where people go and take pictures and walk around. They close down traffic. But like during the 80s and earlier on, like Taxi Driver era in the 70s, there were a lot of porn theaters, and Rudy Giuliani is the mayor of New York at the time. We had this like campaign to clean up Times Square, and so like at that time there were a lot of porno theaters, but now I don't think there are any porno theaters in Times Square.
I think no.
No one's talking about how they're going to survive the economy, if there are any left. I mean, really,
Nobody has any idea.
Yeah.
Did you have any specific reasons to choose to play the film in the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of reasons. One, it's kind of like when we're all roughly the same age. I'm a little bit older than these guys, but you know, it was kind of like the time of our own pubescence, like when we all were teenagers. and also just our affinity for the movies at the time. But I think especially has to do with the way pornography is consumed now versus then, where like now it's like you go on the internet, it's very readily available to see pornography. You can basically, you know, if you think about something, you can immediately find the porn analog to it in an instant.
No matter what.
Yeah, no matter what it is, there's a porn version of it. But you know, when we were growing up, it was like to find a piece of pornography, or you knew somebody who had some porn. It felt like this kind of like holy grail or something. You heard that somebody's brother had a magazine or a video or something, or all these like fantastical stories about finding porn in a forest or some sort of field or something like that, where you just like come across some sort of dirty magazine. And I think that we had, you know, if the film's not necessarily nostalgic for the 90s, it's definitely nostalgic for like a time when that's how people interacted with pornography.
And on that level of nostalgia, any of you four are especially fan of League of Their Own or Encino Man?
I think Keola is the big Their Own fan in the crew.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with three sisters, so we watched A League of Their Own a lot. I still have never seen Encino Man, actually.
Me neither. Yeah. Those were just the movies that were playing in the summer of 91, 92.
92.
You haven't seen Encino Man?
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like I was just highly aware of Encino Man because, you know, if you're like a kid, that movie just like people are like so hyped about it when you're like a young kid, because it's like I remember people quoting it to me, and Pauly Shore being such a huge celebrity and figure during that time period. Like you could, without even having seen Encino Man, I could still like quote it to people because that's just like it was like so present. I feel like amongst all my friends, but no, I never saw it.
Just the most absurd possible choices, I think, was the main motivation.
Okay. Chris, as a producer, what was the hardest thing in the film?
Well, I mean, we're basically talking about it. Like, getting a film like this made just doesn't really happen. It's not supposed to happen. And it never really did, because the person who financed it just had no idea what they were getting into. The pitch was a low-budget horror film. We're like, okay, yeah, we'll show it to you later. And yeah, I mean, there's a variety of hard parts of making the film, but I'd say the hardest was that we just had like a very low budget, of course, as a necessity for a film this niche and weird. So yeah, we just had to be in this theater when it was closed. It's a seasonal theater that's usually open in the summer, and so in the winter they just don't have any heat in there. It's just us in jackets and the occasional space heater. So it was really rough, like for everybody, just because they already weren't sleeping a lot. We had a small crew, and then you come into this cold place. But like luckily the vibes were just like really good. So and then the things that were usually hard for a horror film are expensive, like special effects and our prosthetics. Like we got lucky through our connections to find some like really good guys. So that was hard to afford. That was our biggest line item. But like, as you can probably attest, I think it panned
out. One of the people watching us is saying that he likes the characters very much and they are very real. And I totally agree with that. And I think that much of it is the cast. Can you talk a little about both the characters and the cast? Because I think they complement each other perfectly.
Sure. Maybe you guys want to talk about the genesis of the characters, and I can talk about the casting.
I think all the characters came from not one place, but from many places. I honestly have no idea where other than Heavy Metal Jeff, I feel like is spawned from Keola's special brand of weirdness. But Matt, do you remember where?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of like one of those axioms that we all went to film school together, to grad school together.
Okay.
We had a professor, much beloved, still there, Andy Bean, a great teacher, who would say, kind of like, who does this story need to happen to? And so I think the moment we knew we were going to have a sex demon, it's like, who's the most, who's that going to have the worst effect on, right? And so repressed teenagers with no idea how to process their own sexuality seemed like a very clear answer to that question. And then once we had that, in America, that is very much like evangelical, type kids who grew up in sort of a cloistered environment. And I happened to grow up in the South and had a lot of experience with these like mega churches and stuff. And so a lot of the prayers and stuff and the kind of like superstitions and the kind of fears about constantly, doing the wrong thing. I mean, that was like, had a little bit of that in the DNA. So I think some of the prayer scenes and some of the ways they talk about religion, like, and they kind of morphed into jokes. I think Laurence wrote the joke where Chaz says, is that what all pornography is like or something? And so it kind of like became part of the DNA of the characters to be this naive, and it felt kind of sweet, weirdly, that they had this naive attitude towards sexuality. So that was like a big thing I remember.
And heavy metal.
Yeah. Well, heavy metal. I mean, I think that heavy metal Jeff's a kind of perfect example of because we all went to film school together, and then we also spent a period of film school living together and playing video games and drinking together. We have a shared kind of sense of humor and sensibility, and so the idea for having this hardcore straight edge character comes a little bit from where I went to undergrad. There were a lot of like straight edge vegan people who are like so militant but like don't do any drugs or drink, and so they're like, when they punch you in the face, it's like means something else. And so he's a little bit based on that. He had a different name, and then somebody told us, actually my girlfriend told us that she knew of a guy named Death Metal Jeff, also referred to as Heavy Metal Jeff. And we all thought it was super funny to have this character be named Heavy Metal Jeff, even though he's into hardcore, and then that became a joke. And I feel like when Laurence was writing, when Matt and Laurence were writing the character, a lot of it, Heavy Metal Jeff's personality is based on someone Laurence actually knows. Isn't that true? Like, Laurence, didn't you base some of his lines on some stuff that your friend would say?
I had a childhood friend who'd be like, I made the most amazing dinner last night. It was just a piece of chicken with nothing on it. And I mean, most of this movie was just us regurgitating our stupid ass jokes that we all make to each other, as Keola just said. And if anyone in the world other than us finds it funny, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. But I think that, if the characters come across well, I think that it's because we all kind of like a little bit fell in love with the characters, and like we're all, had great affection towards them. And I think that like both in the writing and then in the casting, I think we wanted to like honor our idea of what these characters were and stuff like that. And so I think we were very, I think we ourselves loved the characters, and I think hopefully it comes across in the film.
I think one thing that was important to us is we made a film we could have easily made a movie that is looking down on this world. And so it was very important to us not to do that. And I think the way to do that is to honor their characters and make their problems real problems, even if some of what they believe obviously is not exactly
silly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it works, man. It works very well. So, casting.
Thank you. So we were going to shoot the film in LA, but then we couldn't find a theater that would allow us to shoot there for zero money. So we found this theater in New York, in Long Island, New York. through some connections through our school. And as Chris mentioned, it was seasonal, so we just had the run of the place during the winter time. So we ended up shooting in New York, and the kind of great thing about New York is that there are so many actors there because there's so much theater that happens in New York, and so there's we just had a lot of talent to pull from. So it was great. It's my first, this is the first feature I've done, and it's my first time working with a casting director. And it was great. It's a process to like find the people who kind of like vibe with the material, but I feel like we totally got lucky on all counts.
Yeah, there's a killer theater community, and like all these actors would be coming in, and like it's hard to find the right fit. And we eventually were worried about one role, and there was like a girl who like just finished up a gig. I don't know, was she on Broadway at the time, Keola, Jillian? I don't even remember.
Well, we had cast someone else for the role of Chaz, who had been in some TV series and stuff. And then she passed on it, and so our casting director did this amazing, like, kind of like last minute search and found Jillian, who ended up playing the role. And yeah, she had done a ton of Broadway stuff, and she was awesome. She read for me like, we FaceTimed maybe a couple days before we started shooting, and she was awesome. And then, a couple days later, she was there when we were filming. So.
Yeah, New York can like provide that way, which was so great about shooting there. And also, like, they're all actors that were on the verge. It's like if you can cast actors just for their ability, that's kind of a real gift. You don't have to worry about like their international value or whatever. And then they've all blown up. Like, she's on a Netflix series now, and then Todd's like a Disney company man now. Like, everyone's like doing well. So
yeah, he's on a Disney show.
I think that one of the things that comes out of the film, and this is something that we always try to bring to the festival, and that I see that many genre festivals try to do, because it's one of the things that our audience like the best. It's a nice mix between horror and comedy, and I think that Pornô brings this together very well. And how hard was this for you?
Well, I mean, I think that when we started, when Matt and Lawrence asked me to come make this, and Chris asked me to come make this film with them, I thought we were going to make just a straight horror film. But I think just the nature of our relationship when we were talking about the characters and stuff, and the premise of the film, we were just like, okay, this is obviously a little bit ridiculous. And then when Matt and Lawrence went away to write the first draft, which they did in 4 days, by the way. They gave it back to me, and it was just so funny. It was like, oh, this is more. I guess we're gonna be like more in the comedy world, and it was. I don't know. I love it. But yeah, I mean, I think that like from the beginning, I didn't think it was going to be that, and then it ended up, just definitely being that. In a great way. How difficult is it? I don't know. I mean, I think that a lot of it is in the script. So, I mean, I think that you want to definitely balance those things.
It's a very nice balance.
Hopefully, we did. Yeah.
One doesn't really overcome the other, and you can see how things come together.
Yeah. I mean, is there? No, go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing we did talk about is thinking about the sort of lineage of horror comedies and the undisputed master being Mr. Sam Raimi. I think what's so great about the Evil Dead movies is that, especially Evil Dead 2, is that like the grotesque is also funny, like that the gore is a gag, and so I think we were conscious of that in the conception of it.
Yeah,
like even the most, which, if you've seen the film, there's a very notable scene. There's a standout scene that people will never fail to mention, and that was like a key example of that. Where we're like, this is going to be the most gory scene, and it's also going to hopefully be the funniest, and also the emotional climax of the movie, kind of.
But I don't think, Matt. I don't think we can take much credit for the rendering of that scene.
No.
Truly, when Matt and I watched the rough cut, we laughed so much we had to pause it, and we were both like choking. couldn't breathe. I really don't. I'm not sure that
how
what was
did
on
you
the
create
page is
that
what.
scene?
Well, I mean, I think we. How do we create the scene? I mean, well, it's kind of it's a lot of different things. Some of it is just like maximizing your material. So, like, that scene is in the script, and the thing that happens is pretty graphic, but it's not like in the script. It doesn't say that you keep cutting back to it. But because the guys that we hired to build this thing did such an amazing job, it was you couldn't. I didn't want to not look at it for the whole time. I just wanted to I just kept wanting to see it. So we shot a lot of it, and we put a lot of it in the film.
When we first called Keola and we said, Keola, do you want to make a movie? There's no idea, and we have to be shooting this thing in like 2 months. He said, if we can blow up someone's nuts, I'll do it. That is a true story.
Oh, that's a true story?
That's a true story,
yeah. And that was a joke. I was saying that as a joke.
We ran with the
Lawrence, yeah, they took it very seriously and just put it right in the film. So that's what you see. Yeah.
The people are asking here, did Fangoria work with you during the film, or did they just came later on?
Later.
So later, yeah. So we independently, Chris got the financing for the film, and then we just went off and made it. I think if anybody else had been involved, they would have told us not to do a bunch of stuff that we actually ended up doing in the film. But luckily, it was just us, and we kind of like made it to make it, and we kind of like crossed our fingers that people would like it, and we lucked out, and we got to premiere at South by Southwest, which was an amazing kind of like springboard for the film. And after that we got to play at a bunch of different festivals, and then we got interest from people like Fangoria, and so they came on afterwards.
And there is one more question here that I think is very interesting. One guy just watched the movie, and he says that he loved the movie. But he wants to know, why didn't he see more sex and nudity? The title of the film is Pornô. By the way, he would like to congratulate you that the demon is gorgeous.
Well, you should congratulate the actress, who is an amazing person, and all the credit goes to her. But why isn't there more sex and nudity in the film? That's a great question. I mean, I think that we all, I don't know. I think on a certain level, the title of the film is ironic, because what these kids have watched is not a porno; it's a demonic film, and so, but they think they've watched a porno, and so yeah, it's kind of, it's not really, the film is about their sexual repression, but I think the goal was never to actually shoot a pornographic film, and so yeah, I think maybe that's why there's not more sex.
I think we're trying to undermine some of the tropes. I mean, this is something Keola has mentioned elsewhere, but the idea of teenagers getting murdered by a male monster, for being promiscuous, we turning that paradigm on its head and being like, these male characters are getting their genitals ripped up by a female monster for being repressed, and so we kind of just tried to invert the formula in every version. So I think being deliberately titillating would have maybe undermined that objective slightly.
Just maybe whoever asked that question is just very horny, and that's their own journey.
We endorse,
we support horniness. Absolutely.
One of the things that I like so much in the film is that when the film starts playing, I think it's the very beginning, Heavy Metal Jeff says, "I won't be playing this European artist shit."
I think he calls it a European titty film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I'm not
Yeah,
breaking
yeah,
my head for your European titty movie. It was verbatim. That's a Keola line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that line.
A very good line.
I think my girlfriend wrote that question about asking for more sex, by the way.
Guys, tell us, is there any particularly funny story that you would like to tell us about the film?
Is there a funny story? Chris, is there a funny story about the film that we want to share?
Broad question, man. Some funny shit happened.
Well, talking about the thing that happens, the very gory effect. When we shot the film, we shot half of the film without any gore because of just the way the film is scheduled. That stuff didn't come until the latter half of the shoot, and so it was the main cast for the most part, kind of like running around, and it was a lot of the comedy and character elements that we were shooting. And it was great because everybody got to know each other, and that we built up this great dynamic. And then the second half of the shooting started, and our special effects guys came, and the day that they brought out the prosthetic that Heavy Metal Jeff wears, everybody just kind of stopped and was like, "Oh, right. I forgot we were in this kind of movie." Some of them maybe were like, they did not know it was really going to be this graphic. And so it was a real kind of moment of silence as that thing was unveiled and everybody looked at it. And then when we shot it, everybody was like crowding around and laughing, and it became super fun. But there was a moment where I was like, I think that maybe everybody's going to yeah. I think that maybe the actors were like, I don't know if I want to do this, and I was like, I hope people don't abandon the film halfway through shooting. But it was just an impressive piece of effects work, and so everybody was like super psyched about it. But it was a real touch and go for a second.
Yeah, speaking of scheduling, the funny thing always to me is just the sheer amount of like blood that Evan had to take. The actor that plays Abe in the scene. There's a scene where I guess we just got to be like a little aloof, but
he
like
gets showered in blood. Yeah,
just literally showered in blood. But like with the way we got that rig working, it was like pretty high pressure, and there was just a lot of volume. And like we had to do multiple takes, and he was just getting, and it just screamed, just covered in blood. And the best part,
a lot of blood in the mouth, a lot of blood in the eyes.
Yeah, we had like covered the entire that area of the set in like plastic wrap. And the best part was like because of the schedule, he had to wear that same outfit and be bloody again like on a different day. So we had to like bloody him up like a second time, and he was just sitting there like super sticky and super bloody. It was really funny.
Guys, one last question. What are you working on nowadays?
We're working. I think we're working on a lot of different stuff. I mean, I don't know. Are people making movies now? Or has that started again? Does anybody know? Does anybody? I heard that they're shooting Jurassic World 3 right now.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So the most important stuff is moving forward.
Good.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of writing is happening right now because not a lot of production's happening. And Matt has a project that he's working on.
Yeah, we were 3 weeks into prep when COVID hit, and then it went down. So that was fun. But yeah, no, it's given us all a lot of time to think about things.
Yeah.
I'm writing a sweet romantic comedy. I don't know about you guys.
What?
I'm writing a sweet and lovely romantic comedy, so that's how I'm using my time, and that's what's next. It's a natural progression.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great.
It makes sense. So, guys, thank you so much for your time. Would you like to say anything else to the Fantaspoa fans?
Just want to shout out to our favorite Brazilian filmmaker and good buddy Denison Ramalho, an alumni of this wonderful festival. Thanks for showing.
And thank you for playing our film, and I hope that a lot of people get a chance to see it, and I hope they enjoy it.
Guys, thank you so much. There is one question here from Oliver, so if you care to answer it. Any tips or advices for new author directors and screenwriters?
Learn animation. No, I'm kidding.
I think that one of the best things you can do is just kind of like get out there and make stuff. I didn't really make any films until I went to film school with these guys, and one of the things I regretted was not trying to do it before film school. I feel like I was waiting for someone to like give me permission to like go out and make something. But really, I think that like if you can get a group of friends together, I mean, people do a lot of amazing things just with their own phone. But I think that try and make stuff and experiment as much as you can, and have fun. Matt, any tips for writing, Lawrence? For writing horror?
I would say write a lot and be nice to your friends. I don't think I've ever had anything made that wasn't because of my friends. And be good to people.
Yeah.
Write longhand on a lot of small pieces of paper, like Kurt Vonnegut style, like on cocktail napkins and stuff. You'll forget it. You will absolutely forget it if you don't write it down immediately.
Oh yeah, you should always write stuff down. But yeah, I mean, I think that also like if you want to be a director, you should also write. Like if you can't get people together, you should just keep writing. You should always like, if you can, just be writing. It's the best way to like exercise your creative brain.
And if you want to direct, it always helps to do anything and everything on set, when that day comes back. But like, there's always some job to do, and like some are less appealing than others, of course. But like, it's all something that you learn from and informs the process. So it's just like, I know a lot of people that they like earn their stripes by going through all these different crew positions. And by the time you get up to whatever it is, like writer, producer, director, like you're more respected and you're more familiar with how everything works.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time. We love having the film here, and it was great talking to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Daisy.
Bye-bye.
See ya.